lights off. Carry me home. Na 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 na. Fuck.
What up? Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, a full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, starting with A Game of Thrones. I am Nate. Joining me is this doofus, Zach.
Doofus?
Yeah, and I even said your name for you, so you didn't get to.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Anywho, I don't have a thing to transition to, but just fuck you.
How do you not have a thing to transition to? We gotta have content. You gotta have something.
Well, I mean, we could just jump right into the chapter, but we don't want to do that.
No, that's a little soon. We have decided at this time who our first sample chapter reread is going to be for our first Patreon bonus episode, and it will be Mercy. So if that's not something you're familiar with,
if you know who Mercy is, you know who Mercy is. If you don't, well then read.
Read your goddamn book.
Yeah, we don't have the exact date on that yet, but we will. Mercy will be the first of the Winds of Winter sample chapters that we are reading. We don't have the second one decided yet, so feel free to write into us if you have a suggestion. We would love to hear that, but otherwise we will pick it ourselves and have that ready for the release pretty soon, shortly after Mercy.
And so that's going to be the Patreon. It's withoutmanners.patreon.com. So go subscribe. It's fairly cheap. It's like $1 or $2 to get the bonus episodes. There's not been any new anything from Martin on his Not a Blog. I've been checking just some random nonsense that's not applicable to Winds of Winter, which is unfortunate. Otherwise, there's nothing going pretty heavily in the Game of Thrones.
Just waiting on the show.
Yeah, which is only about 3 weeks out, I think, as of like today.
Roughly, yeah.
So it's inching closer, ever closer.
Ever closer.
Speaking of inching closer, this chapter, we're inching to the end of poor Ned's life. We're already at Ned 3.
That was a stretch of a segue.
Fuck
sure,
you.
We'll go with it.
Fuck you.
Last episode we just read Sansa 1, where Sansa had her glorious magical day with Joffrey, the prince, and they went riding for a bit, and she got to drink some wine and get a little day drunk, and they had some nice fish, and then they came upon Arya and the butcher's boy playing at night, and Joffrey decided to be a little coos that he is, and he cut Micah a bit, and then Arya fucked him up and chucked his sword in the river. And now that is where today's chapter, Ned 3...
So if you listen to that episode, we did mention that this was going to be a double chapter episode.
We lied.
They're both fairly short chapters, but the next one, Bran 3, it's one that we really, really wanted to dive into.
Yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of imagery.
So we didn't want to, cut ourselves short by combining it with the second episode. If we decide it's still too short, then we'll just jump it into the next one.
Yeah, but for now, this episode was just going to cover Ned 3. We're going to split Bran off into its own separate episode because we feel like there's a lot more content there than we originally intended. But this chapter picks up where Arya has now been missing for 4 days, and Lord Eddard Stark, the Hand of the King, is being informed that they've found her. They've found her, my lord. And Ned immediately asks, was it our men or Lannisters?
So yeah, opening on this chapter, you can immediately feel that just this tension over the entire camp.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're only in this little room in a tent or a castle, a keep, wherever they're at right this second. I think he's in a tower.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you can tell that there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, Ned's steward here that is bringing him the information tells him that it was Jory that found her, and she's unarmed. She doesn't appear to be hurt, and Ned is quite relieved at that, which is very telling that if he believes the Lannisters got a hold of her, maybe some harm would come to her. So yeah, there's definitely some tension, but Ned asks to have Jory bring Arya to him, but instead finds out that she's been taken directly before the king. The queen's men, the queen had some men on the battlements who saw her and immediately told the queen, and then the queen demanded that she be brought right to the king. So Ned says, "Damn that woman," and he leaves the tower. Was that when he did? Is that when he commands Poole to awaken Sansa and bring her?
Yeah, he goes right there. He tells
before he leaves his tower. Yeah, okay, yeah. So he tells her, "Go fetch Sansa." And
so he describes how little rest he has had in the last 4 days. That he led the first 3 searches, or the searches for the first 3 days of it, and an hour of sleep tops.
Yeah, he's not doing so well.
And he says now the fury was on him.
Yeah, he descends the tower steps in a red rage.
So all I can think here is that this is how he arrived at the Tower of Joy. When he was in his prime, he just, rode, and he's probably exhausted from riding for days to get to the Tower of Joy all the way down in Dorne. But he arrives there, and now the fury's on him. His sister, who's been raped for weeks and weeks, is right there. And so it's kind of nice to see this new Ned that's
an angry
fired
Ned.
Up, ready to go.
Yeah.
And he's ready to fuck shit up, man.
Yeah, it says that men were calling to him as he crosses the yard, but he ignored them all. He couldn't tell what they were saying or anything like that. Yeah, he's pissed. And it says that he would have run, but he was still the king's hand, and the king's hand must keep his dignity. So Ned he's panicked a little here. He's angry. He's fleeing, or basically sprinting across this yard to get to where his daughter is because she's been missing for 4 days after what happened with Joffrey.
So speaking of the yard, that's when we'll find out that we are at Sir Raymar Derry's keep, and it's interesting because they're not happy that they're there.
Yeah, no, they're unwelcome visitors.
The Derrys, they supported Targaryens during Robert's Rebellion. They were not for the king that's now
fire and blood. Yeah. Actually, 4 of Sir Raymond's, 4 of his brothers, I believe 4 of his brothers died fighting in that actual very rebellion. So yeah, there's a lot of tension here in this little castle. And it's basically that the king and his men basically just stopped and said, "Hey, so our Lord Hand is missing his daughter, so we're just gonna stay here while we search for her." And that's just been taking quite a while.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, pretty much. We then get that. Where did
Ned bursts into the audience chamber there.
There was a line that I thought was interesting where it said, "With King's men, Derry men, Lannister men, and Stark men all crammed into this one castle, that tensions were just at a boiling point, just between the men alone, let alone the High Lords and the games they're playing." But yeah, Robert has appropriated Sir Raymond's audience chamber as his own, and that's where Ned ends up finding all of them. The room is super crowded, too crowded, Ned thinks, and it's just, had it been just him and Robert, he thinks they could have settled it amicably.
Which you can definitely see would have been the case.
Without issue. It's now become a spectacle. There's a big group, big crowd around Arya, as we come to see. But Robert is slumped in Derry's high seat. He's clearly not interested, or it just says that he looks
he's beat too. He's exhausted because not on top of wanting to be there and help Ned, his son and his wife have been there bitching the whole 3-4 days.
Speaking of, Cersei and Joffrey are standing next to him. Joffrey with thick silken bandages covering his arm.
Fucking Malfoy. Is all I can think about.
Absolutely.
It's all I can,
with the hippogriff situation.
Granted, Joffrey can't have it magically cured, and so there's literally no reason for him to have the bandages. But, 100%, he's a Malfoy. He's just this whine-ass kid who's going to milk it for everything it's worth, regardless of how bad. Not to mention, he's going to flat-out lie about the whole situation.
That and his mother is also going to milk it for all that.
And she's going to feed him the stories that he needs to be saying.
So, yeah, Arya's standing in the center of this room with all eyes on her. I mean, this is a seven-year-old girl.
This also reminds me of when when it's going to happen to Sansa when she's being unbetrothed to Joffrey and she's in front of everybody and she's where everyone's attention's on.
Yeah, it's a terrifying scene for a kid, and Jory's standing there with her, and Ned kind of is grateful for that. But Ned calls to her as soon as he sees her, and she cries out to him and immediately begins to sob. And Ned takes a knee and wraps her in a hug, and that's when she's just sobbing. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he tells her it's okay, like, you know, and then he notices how truly small she really is, and he says it's hard to see how this one little teeny tiny child is causing so much trouble, like, and I think that's sort of reflective on the moment, like, why the fuck is everyone gathered here? The king and the queen and the prince and all their men are gathered for a 6-7-year-old girl who got into a little scrape with, the prince, but it sort of puts context to the whole situation. And so Ned, he asks how Arya is, if she's hurt, and she's a little dirty, but she's okay, and she tells him that, I'm a little hungry, I ate a few berries out there on the road, and he says, all right, we'll get you fed soon, and Ned rises and faces the king and says, what is the meaning of this?
And he looks around hoping to see some friendly faces, but besides, like, Jory, all he sees are, there's a couple he recognizes, but nobody that's going to give him any sympathy. There's nobody that's going to give it
I kind of wrote down the faces. Sir Raymond is guarded, Lord Renly is smiling, but the smile could mean anything, and only Sir Barristan looks grave. Yeah. Barristan's not liking what he's seen. Obviously, he's an honorable knight. We know that.
I feel like he sees Mad King Aerys already in Cersei and Joffrey.
I think he just sees the corruption.
He's not.
They're playing the game for their own sake, and gods be damned, everything else. But this is when Ned sort of thanks his lucky stars that because the rest are Lannister men, and Ned says in hostile. So that's an interesting thing he points out, but. Both Jaime and the Hound are missing. They're out leading different searches of their own. And Ned's kind of glad for that because it would just be more numbers of brutality, especially with Clegane.
So Ned questions, why wasn't my daughter brought immediately to me? Like, what the fuck is up with that? And he was asking Robert, his friend, his king, but it's not Robert who answers.
Nah, it's the lioness who speaks up.
And she's like, how dare you speak to your king like that? Which, thankfully, Robert...
Yeah, this is when Robert stirs.
Quiet, woman.
Exactly,
Done. Yeah. None.
And he apologizes. Sorry, Ned, I never meant to frighten the girl. I just wanted to get this shit sorted out quick, is basically what he says. And Ned says, what business do you have with her? What is there to sort the fuck out? And Ned's pretty cold at this point. It says he says it with a cold, steeled voice.
It says that he put ice in his voice,
and then that
and I feel like that has so many double and triple meanings because it's saying that he's got this sharp edge to his voice, but at the same time his fucking Valyrian sword is called ice,
one of the sharpest things,
and so he's putting his sword into his words. It's like he's using his weapon this way instead.
He's absolutely trying to take a shot at Robert here, and manages to, I think, just by how cold he is. And this is when Cersei steps forward and she says, you know what business, Stark. Your girl here attacked my son and her and the butcher's boy. They
beat him with clubs.
Arya, of course, just denies this accusation from Cersei, and then she says Joffrey told us what happened, and this is when we get the lie that you and the butcher's boy beat him with clubs while you sicked your wolf on him. In this whole just bullshit story
and we saw it from Sansa's eyes. Like, we know this is horseshit.
So there's some back and forth. Arya denies it, and then Joffrey insists that it's true, and Ned even puts a hand on Arya's shoulder to kind of calm her because he realizes she's getting worked up. Ned also notices that when Joffrey's sort of giving his description, he doesn't even glance Arya's way, sort of adding confirmation to the lie. It's hard to look at people that you're lying about in front of them.
So again, Robert silences the room, and he's like, enough's enough. Arya, you tell me exactly what happened. And until she's done, he just tells Joffrey, you shut the fuck up.
Tell it all and tell it true.
And so she goes through her story.
Yeah, she goes into a story.
And so besides maybe making Joffrey a little more of a cunt sounding, I'm she's going to tell it true.
Yeah,
she's going to
she
tell
told the
exactly
true
as it is, because
story.
she has no reason to lie. She's got nothing to hide. And so my favorite part of this chapter, I think, is she gets to the point where she's throwing the sword into the river, and Renly Baratheon just starts laughing.
Yeah.
And he can't stop himself. So Robert, the king, badass, tells Barry the Bold that he needs to escort Renly out of the fucking place. And Renly's like, I got it.
I got it.
I got this. But before he does, he gives Joffrey a little tiny bow and then tells him someday he'll have to recount this tale on how a girl as large as a wet rat, how she managed to disarm you with a broom handle and throw your sword into the water. And as one last thing before he walks out, he just laughs by saying the name of the sword, Lion's Tooth, and just gets great humor out of the fact that
Renly's enjoying himself here, and it pisses Robert off, which is pretty great. But Ned had also noticed that Sansa slipped in at this point with his steward there, and they were kind of hanging out toward the back. But yeah, Renly bounces, and it's hilarious. Joffrey is very pale as he starts telling his side of things, and it's a very different version, Ned notes. The king has no fucking clue what to do.
Yeah, the fuck am I supposed to do?
And, kids are kids. So Ned says, actually, there's someone who can add validity, and this is when he had Sansa step forward. And he thinks that Sansa told him her story the night that she came back.
Which was everything that Arya told.
And so it said that Ned knew the truth. So Sansa steps forward, and her eyes are filled with tears. She's terrified. And she says that she doesn't know, that it all happened so fast that she can't remember. And Arya fucking snaps.
Yes.
And goes at her sister like an arrow, knocking Sansa to the ground, pummeling her, screaming, liar, liar, liar. So Jory runs in, pulls Arya off as Ned is helping Sansa up, which this only confirms for Cersei that the girl's as wild as her filthy little beast. She demands that she wants her punished. She tells Robert, I want her punished, Robert. And Robert says, she's a kid. What do you
Cersei,
fucking want me to do here?
Yeah.
Children fight. That'll be it. And then Cersei says, but your son will bear these scars for the rest of his life. And Robert says, good. So be it. Hopefully they'll teach him a lesson next time. So he has no sympathy for Joffrey here. Nothing he's doing or anything like that is out of sympathy for Joffrey.
Because Robert's in the right place here, technically. As a parent, my kid got into a fight.
Our kid scrapped,
And, she spent the last 4 days in the woods. He's got a cut on his arm.
So Robert tells him, discipline your daughter, I'll do the same with my son, and that'll be it. And Ned is relieved. That's about what he could have hoped for,
And that right there is exactly what he would have wanted had it just been Robert and him.
The two of them,
They would have laughed about it. Oh, your son,
they would have joked, and Robert would have said, I can't believe she disarmed him like that.
Right.
They would have had a good
And it would have
laugh.
been, all right, well, you punish yours for fucking my kid up, and I'll punish mine for being a little dipshit. And that's that.
This is when Cersei mentions the wolf. What about the wolf, the beast that savaged your son? And Ned actually sees Arya tense in Jory's grasp when she mentions the wolf, but Jory quickly speaks up, saying that they had found no trace. And it said Robert didn't look unhappy at this news, which, again...
He just wants to be done with this
He wants to be done with it. But Cersei immediately throws out the offer of 100 gold dragons to the man who brings me this wolf skin. And Robert kind of tells her that's an expensive pelt. I want nothing to do with this. This is bullshit. You need to relax.
And 100 gold it's not cheap, especially when we just did Cat 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was 90 silver for Bran's life.
Mm-hmm.
90 silver. And so it makes you think that it either had to have been a child that hired someone for Bran, or somebody not... You could tell it's definitely not like Jaime or Cersei that did it, because they only owe 90 silver for this job. She's putting 100 to make a show. Holy shit.
Yeah. But then she challenges Robert straight up by saying that the king she had married would have immediately presented her with a wolf pelt. And this kind of gets to him, and he says, that's quite the magic trick, where we don't have a fucking wolf for me to do it. And she says, well, we do have another wolf. And it says here, when she mentions this wolf, that Ned noticed her green eyes shone with triumph. She just wanted someone to pay on the Stark side. And it doesn't matter if it was the offender, if it was Nymeria the wolf that actually did it, or Lady, and now she kind of knows that she's sunk that hook and she's going to get what she wants. So the king shrugs and says, as you will, and Ned's not happy about that. So
Ned I just picture as Morty, just like, oh, come on.
Oh, jeez, Robert.
Come on, Robert.
Ned tries to protest, and Robert is just done arguing for the day, and he tells him, get her a dog, she'll be the happier for it. A dire wolf is no pet.
And then this is when Sansa finally comes
Sansa finally, it clicks, and she says, they don't mean Lady, do they? Lady didn't bite anybody, Lady's good.
It's just in hysterics, and then Arya starts losing her
Yeah, even Arya jumps in, and that's the bond these sisters have, is that even though they were just fighting and Arya wanted to pummel Sansa, as soon as it becomes about Lady, Arya's immediately right there saying, yeah, no, Lady wasn't there, so...
And then Ned comes at his pal Bobby B with a hard line, man. It says that he looks across the room at his old friend, closer than any brother, and then basically asks Robert on his sister's vows to not do this shit. And she's dead. He can't not listen to his current wife and queen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, he's like, damn you,
Yeah, he's a damn you, Cersei. Robert's pretty pissed. He really wants to be a friend to Ned, but... So, Ned turns to Robert at this point and tells him to do it yourself. At least have the courage to go and do it yourself. And he actually kind of shames Robert here, because Robert wordlessly turns and leaves. He's not going to do it himself. He's going to turn and leave, and he backs down from that sort of challenge that Ned issues. And so Cersei asks where the wolf pup is, and Sir Barristan reluctantly tells her that it's chained up outside, and she sends for Sir Ilyn. But Ned steps in and is like, no, I'll do it. And she immediately is like, what is this, a trick, Stark? Or what are you up to? And he tells her, no, the beast is of the north. It deserves better than your butcher.
Mad props to Ned.
Definitely. He never...
Part of it's for this next little jab that I really am super glad he got in when the end happens. But yeah, it's... Fuck her.
Well, even as he's, saying that he'll do it, that they don't need Sir Ilyn, it says that the words tasted of bile in his throat. He doesn't like it. He knows what these wolves mean to his children. So it is this... He actually is doing it for an honorable purpose. At least he'll be gentle, he'll treat the wolves with
He's not going to sit there and just stab it 44 times in the leg until it bleeds to death.
Exactly.
He'll do it and be done with it.
So yeah, the girls are a wreck, and he leaves it says he leaves the room with his eyes burning and his daughter's wails echoing in his ears, and Ned goes and finds Lady chained up exactly where they said, and he sits with her for a while, which again just endears me more to Ned Stark. He's not just going right for it. He sits with her and he pets her,
and he gets he starts learning how much, because he mentions that he realizes that there's way more to the names that he's never cared to have a second thought about.
Yeah, he actually calls her Lady and tries it out and sees how she responds to it,
and he's like, it doesn't feel wrong. She's the smallest of the litter, she's delicate, she's gentle,
she's the prettiest,
and just gives this dog the attention that it should be getting.
And then gracefully Martin skips over the actual brutal part and just says that once it was done, Ned immediately finds Jory and commands that the body of the wolf is brought back.
And this is that little jab I was talking about, where, if nothing else, and I don't think it's purely for this, I think it's also out of respect for it being a northern animal and the Stark sigil, but he says that Lannister woman will never have her hands on this skin.
Yeah, Ned wants the body all the way back up in the north. And Jory's even a little surprised, but Ned is adamant about it. And yeah, he says so that she won't have the skin, but I think it's for that reason, but mainly because she's not going to have the skin of a pet of one of his daughters. That's the sigil of his house. That
she took for
an
pure
animal
spite.
Of the north that she just she wants for pure spite because her son's a little shit. It's just all of these things of every sense of honor of Ned is pulling at him at this point, I think, to do what he does there. So I think it's great and I love it. It's sad though. But on his way back to the keep, he hears some horses coming in, and in rides Sir Sandor Clegane.
He's not a sir.
I know he's not a sir. Fuck your sir.
Yeah.
He's got something slung over his saddle, and Ned at first thinks it's Nymeria.
Well,
and
especially because he says, "I've got your daughter's pet here."
Yeah, and he says, and Ned thinks to himself, "Shit, what am I going to tell Arya now? Like, we just got rid of Lady.
We could have saved Lady.
Type thing."
And I think this harkens to the line that Ned said, that she's from the north, she deserves better than a butcher. And it's this, Nymeria got hit with a butcher. And then all of a sudden you find out that the butcher has the butcher's boy over his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he drops it. Yeah, drops it at Ned's feet, and Ned checks it out. And indeed, it's the butcher's boy. Ned checks it out and just asks him, the butcher's boy, and it said the hound's eyes seemed to glitter in his hideous dog helmet.
Yeah, because Ned notices the size and the angle from whence the strike came, that it was from above, and it was a very heavy strike. A lot of different things that, show how this... He's basically, Westerosi CSI, just picking apart the body and doing some DNA analysis. But he sees that this kid was... The hound rode him down.
You rode him down? And that's when the hound responds, and he laughs and says, he ran not very fast.
And he laughed after he saw Ned's face.
Yeah, he looks at Ned's face in response to the butcher's boy being killed, and he laughs at that. So the hound is just being an animal, and that's where the chapter wraps up. Butcher's boy is dead. Arya.
So I like that it's showing us the hound's brutal savagery through the helmet of the hound. Whereas before, when he was had the gentle hands on Sansa, and, we'll see some things later on when he gets to his little private island there.
Yeah, but it's almost the association with the helmet.
Yeah, it's very much that title, and that persona is the evil thing. So that is the hound, whereas when we were seeing Sansa freaking out in the crowd with everybody, that was Sandor. That was, the decent side of him.
I love the hound.
So that's the end of that chapter. So it's
narrowing down for Ned.
Coming down. How many is there? 15 total?
I thought there was 15 or 14.
So you got like 12 or 11 left. So what do you got yourself an initiate for this week?
I don't even know. Like
I have one this week.
And
it's Renly for finding the humor in all of this, because absolutely, it's devastating that Lady has to go, and we all hate Joffrey and his mom, but Renly laughing in front of everybody about the fact that Arya tossed his sword, that's fucking funny. And he has the balls to sit there and just laugh his ass off about it, to where he's gonna actually interrupt this whole thing, and he has to get kicked out because he's being too obnoxious. And then he doesn't even stop there. He's the asshole who keeps walking by going, so you can tell me how you got disarmed by a chick with a broomstick, right?
I do enjoy Renly.
So
that's a good one, yeah.
So Renly can Brotherhood hang out for a bit.
Yeah, mine's gonna probably go to Arya for...
Hey, Barrack.
That dog. Mine's gonna go to Arya for pummeling the shit out of Sansa, because as the younger sibling, I've been in that situation where older siblings just suck sometimes and lie or
I forgot that she knocked her to the ground.
Yeah, and she was on top of that shit, and I've been there. I've been that angry where you could just wreck a fucking sibling. So it
was funny because he thinks that he was tough, but it never hurt.
It wasn't me that thought I was tough. Anywho, but Arya, welcome to the Brotherhood for this week. So those are our inductees,
them guys. Make sure you guys send us who you would like to induct next time. We also have all of our social medias going. Twitter @MannersWithout, Instagram @BrotherhoodWithout, Gmail is withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com, and our facebook.com/brotherhoodpodcast. We've already done the Patreon a couple times. Don't forget to send us messages, comment, subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes, 5 stars or better. That's all that's the highest you can go. So, anyway,
it's not the highest I can go.
Bonus episodes are going to be sweet, so we're really excited.
They're coming
for those.
soon.
Let us know what you want to hear. Like we said, sample chapters. We've chosen Mercy as our first one. But if you've got one that you prefer, send us a message. Let us know what it is.
Mercy!
Until next time, though, I suppose that'll that'll do it.
That'll
nice
do
little short
it
episode
for
this
Netty
week,
3. Join us, for Brand 3. And like we said, we may attach the following chapter after that to it as well, depending on how long that one is. But we'll figure that out. That's for us to worry about and you to listen to. So we will catch you guys on the next one.
Bye, Harris.
Peace.